Hello there. Just enjoying a nice sloth mug of water. Today we're going to be talking about a pretty serious subject. You saw it earlier this week in my blog. Today, if you're watching this, hello, welcome to the reblog. Okay, I'm going to try to have too many cuts, but I don't know what the hell to say after that. Basically, we're doing the reblogs today. If you don't know, the reblog is something basically I do now after some of my blog posts as a way to, drain more content out of them. Kidding. To allow like another facet for the visually impaired to access the content, as well as I just have a very bad habit of forgetting things when I'm writing the blogs out, and I definitely took like longer to write these out than I normally do, just to kind of make sure I don't forget anything, but I still forgot some things. So that's why we're here talking about them. A little background on me. I have a diploma in broadcast television and have an approximate knowledge of many things multimedia. That's me. I also have autism, bipolar, CAP, and not enough paper to write all of my diagnoses on. I'm no expert in these topics, but as a member of the disability community, I feel like I have, some responsibility, if I'm able to try to talk about these things. Obviously, there are many amazing people who can explain concepts on race, religion, gender, everything like that, LGBT representation, disability representation, when it's crossed with other intersectionalities. Sorry. As you can tell, I'm, a white cis man, and so as far as diagnoses go and medical bias goes, I don't face a lot of it. And so I don't have like a lot of, I don't want to take the spotlight away from those communities specifically. So I'm just going to be talking about what I more so know, and just kind of get some of this stuff off my chest in a way that is helpful, healthy, and I don't know, fun to do. So basically, I'm going to stick to what I know, which is the base level mental health representation across media platforms. I'm not going to talk too much about video games because they have like a whole other thing with representation that we need to talk about, but that's not fully my conversation to have. But anyway, that was a tangent. But basically, we're going to try to talk more about TV, film, and like social media and stuff. So before we jump into it, we need to talk about two particularly important items. Terms when talking about these topics. Those would be the ideas of inspiration porn and trauma porn. Sorry, I'm going to talk a little bit slower now. Because I felt myself getting nervous in that paragraph. But it's okay. We're all chill here. So let's talk about inspiration porn. Inspiration porn is the act of portraying disability as something solely to be overcome, using our stories basically to inspire neurotypical people. This tends to cast us in the role of burdens, with little to no redeeming qualities. A lot of the time, the characters around us are constantly in the mindset of like, oh, do I have to hang out with him? Do I have to like take care of that, my brother? Do I have to, that's the family member we don't talk to, whatever. So usually that's where we're cast in that aspect. But somehow during the rise to the occasion of this film, we're able to either cure ourselves of our disabilities when the need arises, or just kind of focusing on how sorry, kind of lost where I was there. All right, sorry, that was a cut that you might, one of the few cuts you'll probably see. Just lost my train of thought mid sentence there, and I did not want to half-ass that sentence. So basically, where we were, we're talking about, inexplicably curing ourselves when the need arises. You rarely focus, or like the topic rarely focuses on the societal issues that tends to clash with people with disabilities, causing these stories to take place. It's never like, oh, well, maybe we should look at how the society caused this effect, and more so, well, the person needs to just adapt to what we see as the norm. Another form of inspiration porn portrayal is viewing people with disabilities as less than, whose stories of like basically doing any menial task that is seen that like only normal folk can do. Basically, like that gets shared a crap ton. It's if this person can do it, like if this person can do this, then what's your excuse? What's your excuse if this less than person can do, since you're a normal person? That's essentially what that ends up being. And another kind of instance of inspiration porn that you see a lot on social media and a lot in like Silicon Valley and stuff is the idea, and I saw a tweet about this actually, and I never thought about it this way myself even, where I always saw this one video of like this, it looked really cool. It was like this transforming chair where essentially the wheels split out and, it helped them climb the stairs. Cool, right? It seems like that's an amazing invention. Then it's like, okay, but why does that have to be an issue in the first place? Why is there not like accessible access? Why is there not the ramps with like why isn't there like the elevator access now? All of these things that we can be like fitting and retrofitting. So something like that where it more so focuses on how we can fix the person and not the situation they're in. Which, yes, there are times where character growth is necessary to grow in life. I think you have to grow every day. I think there are times in my own life that you could call inspirational and that I overcame things, and that's great. I don't want to then see that as like the only form of media, that the only time that, and just like to use myself as an example, I don't want to see that the only time that I'm worthy of, like my story is worthy of telling, or like I'm worthy of being viewed is if I'm overcoming, is if I'm doing something incredible and I'm on the grind. I'm doing something like I'm learning 5 new skills a day and working like 5 times harder than anyone else. And that's I don't got the willpower for that. I don't got the energy for that. I'm a big guy, all right? Okay, sorry for that cut. I realized something important. I forgot the wedding ring. And I knew I would get in trouble if I was not wearing that. Also, I just like wearing it, so, like to show off on camera. Anyway, where were we at? Oh, yes. So we're moving into the term of trauma porn. Basically, I would be very negligent to say that this is something that only affects the disability community or majority affects the disability community. It does not. It affects all marginalized communities, especially right now the BIPOC community. Basically trauma porn is on the other end of the dial of inspiration porn. So if you think inspiration porn is the idea of overcoming, trauma porn is the idea that people just want to see suffering. So it is rampant in many communities. It's any type of media that exploits traumatic moments or suffering in order to gain attention, views, and income, or those sweet, sweet awards. Those are frustrating. Just because this is often used by non-marginalized groups to gain fame and pats on the back for portraying these stories and being able to step into the role of these people who exist and try to get into the acting world but are not able to get roles because any roles for us are then taken, and any roles not for us are not for us, and we're not worth the energy to have on set then. So basically a lot of the time it's just being told that you're too much of a cost to keep on set, and people with disabilities are too much of a cost to be used in stories about them. So, and that's not just people in disability. Like, it's bad in all communities. And another example is non-trans people playing trans roles. There are many amazing trans actors and many amazing trans actors that aren't even known because these roles are being taken, and then once again, anyone who's not seen as the norm is too much effort to keep on set for anything that's not roles for us and for these communities and for, checking my notes, making sure that I didn't miss anything on that, because I literally almost went through the whole inspiration porn and missed most of my notes on what I wanted to talk about. So, one more thing about inspiration porn. So I talked about it a little bit there. There is a difference between inspiration and being inspiring and being inspired and solely telling a story for the, like, wow, look at them overcome, there's just a difference, and you have to look, we'll talk about looking at what you watch later. I'm not here to shame anyone for what they watch. I'm just here to maybe help people look at maybe a little bit more of what they're viewing and how they can know what they're viewing is good. I don't know. Like, I'm not the master and purveyor of what's good and what's not. So trauma porn, a lot of it. One more thing is, actually, there's a few more things I want to talk about trauma porn. So let's move on to that first. Let's not jump the wagon here. In the case of mental health, this has been used mainly as a way to demean us and simultaneously show how awful our life is, and at the same time profit and win awards using scenes of our suffering. Basically bring us out of the closet for to view our stories, or not even really, because a lot of the time it doesn't really align with what. And I'm going to say this. There are people that will view some things that are deemed inspiration porn or trauma porn that like are in these communities and are like, oh well, I connect with this, I connect, and I'm not discrediting that either, because that is a very real thing. What I'm trying to do is widen the scope. I'm trying to make sure that we're not only viewing these things in one light or several different lights, because people are so different. And even just in autism alone, you met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. Like, or you met 100 person, one person. Oh my God, you met 100 people with autism. You've 100 different people with autism. You've met 100 different people with autism. Something like that. I don't know. I just butchered it. Before we move on from the topic of trauma porn and in inspiration pornist terms, I do want to mention one more thing that kind of falls into them. Is like the things on social media that kind of fall into the I'm this with this and this, I bet I won't even get one like, or people say I won't even get one share, or like something like that. And for a fact that these pictures are just from Google, and they just want, like, I don't know if it's like helps their algorithm for ads, or I don't know, but a lot of these typically aren't even shared by the people. They're just people who want likes, grab any kind of inspirational or traumatic thing they could off of Google and slap on, I bet I won't even get one like, I bet I won't even get one share. People are like, bet you're wrong. Which is fine. Like, I get it. Like, it's just you got to think on multiple levels. And you just kind of have to take a look at everything you're intaking. Anyway, going too deep right now. Do want to say trauma porn typically is made for shock value. It portrays our stories, but typically doesn't portray us. And whatever other communities, like I said. And yeah, let's move on. So I'm going to say this revelation now. We are human beings. There are negatives about our disabilities. There are positives. There are things that just don't affect me for the most part. And that's just like most human beings. But that in itself, like, doesn't click sometimes with others. Because I love like a lot of the ways my brain works. There's a lot of ways where my brain kind of diverges from how like other people view problems and view solutions, and just view things in general. So I do like that. On the other hand, yes, there are things that make my life more difficult. There are things that are tough about my disabilities. And I use the term disabilities now, not as like a way, because a lot of people hear the term disabilities and they're automatically like, all right, well, it's a negative. Boom. So by saying that, like, oh no, you're not disabled, like because like you're not negative. It's like, no. Like, we fall under this category, but it's not a negative. I don't know. Like, it's... Anyway. I will say, though, there are a lot of issues that we face that are less about the mental issue and disability itself, and more so about societal structures and societal... just different things... as a whole, how we view quality of life. One person's quality of life isn't the same as another's, and assuming somebody's life must be awful because they're not living your best version of life is actually a shitty attitude, and that needs to start changing, because different people exist. Plain and simple, we all exist. That's not going to change. But constantly pushing this main idea and these uh, designer this designer group of quality of life, I will say, where only certain types of lives are worth living, and the rest, just aren't deemed worth living. If you stop breathing, that's it. You don't get help for it. But the lost track of what I was thinking there. Yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say on that. Cool. People exist. Let us exist. Just because we don't fit in your quality of life doesn't mean we're not happy. So, yeah, there we go. So, it's this or we are miraculously cured of our disabilities. Those are the two big things in inspiration porn. The general umbrellas. The problem is too, so a lot of the time they'll like find a miracle cure and they'll just be like, it's like, oh yeah, I really wanted it more, and like I drank some more water, so like I don't know, I drank some water, suddenly I wasn't disabled, and there we go. And like, it's not in like all films, but you definitely like you do see it sometimes where it is just that idea that like we can just overcome it with sheer willpower. We can overcome anything with sheer willpower. And that's just not the case, especially when there are things societally that push back on that. But anyway, while these are things that happen in real life, pushing only these narratives in a wider array of stories about us continuously teaches children that we must only have value when we fit into these categories. We can't just exist as we are. We can't just grow. We can't just change. We can't just learn like every other human being. No, it has to be this this theatrical experience of it. Every story about us has to solely revolve around our disability and how it impacts the non-disabled people around them. Not that we are autonomous beings, just like everyone else. I say this a lot, but I do genuinely think that in children's media especially, we need to start making these changes, because the children and kids are the ones that are going to be learning this the fastest, that don't have those born-in prejudices. Because they're children. They're still learning. So if we stop the misinformation young, we're not then spending the extra energy trying to unteach people and reteach people. Okay, so that's about that. The other reason these stories are often problematic is the complete and utter lack of diversity in the writing rooms, film and television crews, behind and in front of the camera. I keep drilling this in. Most of these scripts are written with absolutely no consultation from us, with absolutely no involvement from us. This is an issue in multiple communities, of course, but it is so damn hard to get actual disabled people into disabled roles. I feel like there is a serious problem, especially in the mental illness community, where a lot of the time we are told that we need to be spoken for, that the only way that our community can be represented is by organizations that don't include us, just by people who think they know us and may know some of us, and that is fine, but try to talk for us as a whole based off of their experience and their prejudice of the few. And so this is how you get the bigger problem. I heard this a lot, just behind the curtain and stuff, where, actually, I might talk about this later, so I might leave that. Okay, do talk about it later, so let's pin that. This video is already getting long enough. There is one more, sorry, before we move on from that, I will say some examples of inspiration porn. The Good Doctor. You know, that idea that we just see numbers, that we're super geniuses, that we're supercomputers, and then that's, yeah, I think I talk about that a little bit later too. Love on the Spectrum is another example where a lot of the content around it, a lot of the marketing around it, I saw was a lot of the, well, if these people can find love, or, wow, look at, even these people can find love, or even people like them can find, you can understand the problem with that then, right? And then just, any idea of, like there are things about my illness that I can overcome, but you can't just by sheer willpower overcome disabilities without some other external force. And like in some cases, like there are cases where it is just a matter of healing, but like if there is like neurological things and stuff like that, maybe it's just okay that we exist. Anyway, moving on. There is one more idea I want to touch on before we kind of start wrapping up a bit. Oh my god, no, we're not even wrapping up a bit. This is a long video, I'm so sorry. I thought this was gonna be a lot shorter, so I talked at the beginning a lot more, so I'll try to rush through this a little bit more at the end so that you were not sitting here all day. So one more idea. That is the use of stereotypes in media. And this, again, goes to all communities, but specifically about the disability community. You know, cameos, gags, bits, caricatures, whatever they may be. We need to stop using negative stereotypes associated with being slow, or mentally handicapped, or mentally disabled, or anything like that, solely for the sake of comedy. And that is in the loosest terms, because Jesus, it is 2020 now. We should not be making jokes about this still. And like positive stereotypes don't really get a pass in this either. And while yes, technically a positive stereotype includes something that is deemed useful or adds value to someone because of their group, it still causes overall damage and stigma to communities because it creates a precedent that a disability is only good if they hold these stereotypes, which is impossible because every human being is different. And attaching somebody's sole value to a small group of traits is so incredibly damaging to the people that exist outside of those stereotypes. But like going back to the negative stereotypes again, with the being slow, and my wife and I watched for the Halloween season Goosebumps 2 because I'm not good with scary things, and we found a nice compromise with like some children's scary movies. So we watched Goosebumps 2 because we already watched Goosebumps, the original, a couple of years ago. And there's literally, this movie came out in what, 2019? 2019. And there's a scene at the end, I'm just going to try to include it.
You like carving pumpkins, huh? Look what you did to poor Terry.
Hiya, I'm round.
What are you doing? Rub me down.
Hiya, happy Easter.
No.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but think about that. Why was that needed? What part of that seemed necessary to the overall story? that this pumpkin was just a sight gag and a negative stereotype gag for the sake of a cheap laugh, I guess. One that kills me with the positive stereotypes is that autism only appears in two ways in media. Usually, I don't want to say that. Usually, autism is either a terrible woe is me burden to their family if they are seen as nonverbal in media, and often used as a way to show how awful the home life is and how awful the parents have it because of this awful kid who has no ability of self-sufficiency. Or adversely, on the opposite side, autism is a white man somewhere between 20 to 40 years old, which is also somehow, or who is also somehow part supercomputer, because they see numbers in the air and they can remember like everything that's ever happened in their life, and they can like look at somebody's breathing and figure out that like they have a broken ankle. I don't know, but like shit like that. Which, like, again, like, there are people like that. There are people like that who exist. But autism is such a massive spectrum. You cannot just have two categories to place us in. And we can't just have roles that are specifically just about our autism, that are about how our autism affects the world around us. We need to have many different representations, and ones that are actually represented and presented by us. Anyway, never in my life have I seen numbers and calculations for the world around me. Like, I was pretty good in math. I was decent in other classes. Terrible in science, which is hilarious because everybody's like, you're so good at math. How are you so bad at science? Like, I don't know. It just never clicked. But I have like a memory of goldfish. And you saw that. Like, I was mid-sentence and forgot a whole damn topic. Like, anyway. So, I talked a little bit about it earlier. I'm going to talk more about it in detail now, right after I take a nice sip of water. Yum. Anyway, I've seen and heard behind the curtains enough to know some of the things being said. Because I am able to mask so well, because I am able to come across as neurotypical when I'm out and about a lot of the time. Basically, people will just say things and not know, not know that I am a part of the people they're talking about. And they'll gatekeep us for ridiculous reasons. The amount of times I have heard, well, how are we supposed to deal with them? How are we supposed to deal with them on set? It'll just be too much work. It's not worth the extra money. It's not worth the extra days. A set doesn't need a disabled person. Too much work. And in my eyes, it's like, well, if you don't care enough to have us around in real life and have our needs met in real life so that you can properly represent our story, then how do you think we're going to, clearly you don't care enough about the story itself then. Because if you don't care about us in real life, how are you going to care enough to portray us in a fictional setting? And if you can't have us on set, don't profit off of our lives. And that goes with most other communities too. Don't profit off other people's lives if you don't want, if you just want to use fake diversity for the views. I don't know. Another one. But where are we supposed to find disabled actresses? That could take additional months that we just don't have. Well, what? Like, we're not unicorns. We're not mythical. We're not cryptids. We're not, like, you have to, you can only hire us for a role in a full moon with a bowl of red Blue Jays blood. I don't know. Like, we're not these mythical creatures that you can't find. You're just not looking. Like, and then you're like, well, I don't know of any, like, disabled actors. And it's like, yes, because we're then not given the roles. If these people aren't willing to have us on set to tell our own stories, how are they going to be willing to have us on set to tell mainstream media stories? Like, and it's like sitting in a room full of people. You're shoulder to shoulder. You're sweating because it's a lot of people. You have your eyes closed, ears plugged, screaming. There is no one else in this room. Ridiculous. Just think about what you're... I'm not going to say that with an angry tone because I don't want to portray that with an angry tone. I will say... all this was not to shame anybody. All this was not to be mightier or holier than thou. I knew this before you, or you didn't know about this. How did you not know about that? Which, I mean, like, now we're learning about this, so now there's no reason not to know. Just think about what you're consuming. Okay? Just think about what you're consuming. Who made it? Is there more than one disabled person on the production? The token, whichever person they have on set to be like, see, this isn't offensive because we have this person. And that's prevalent, again, in all communities. How does the story frame the person with the disability? And is the actor actually disabled? I don't write this as some kind of attack or to shame people. Once again, what I want is an actual meaningful change. And we need to continue talking about representation in media on all levels, because that is one thing that shapes societal views. Different people exist, and forced diversity feels like a ridiculous term when we force media to only represent a small demographic of people. I don't know. But that's what I have to say. Give us roles, give us jobs. We're looking for money because all of everything costs money. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed today's reblog. I was really worried that I was going to be short on content today. Thought it was going to be a short video. I was like, oh man, like, I feel like this isn't going to be like add anything to the blog. And now I'm like, damn, I'm looking down the barrel of like, I don't even know, long video. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Check out my social media. I will try to link it below at sleepy_media for Twitter and Instagram. My website is livingwithautismblog.com. Sorry, www.livingwithautismblog.com. And then, what else do I want to plug? Like my page on Facebook for updates as well. I mostly do all my updates on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook is Living with Autism. And finally, if you enjoy listening to my voice, I do gameplay videos. I'll probably throw it up in an annotation right now. Right now I'm doing Civilization 6 videos just to practice more on camera acting. All right, cool. So, hope you all had a great day. Hope you all continue to have a great afternoon and a great evening. Goodbye.